6:01, according to our clock. This is the October regular meeting of the North Bennington Prudential Committee. And we should introduce ourselves first, starting with Matt and going around.
Matthew Patterson, board member.
Schrader, board member.
Lori Elwell, North Bennington Graded School District Clerk.
And Mary Rogers, treasurer.
Tim Newhold, village school head.
Kim Crawl, board member.
It's okay.
And I'm Ray Molyneux, I'm the chairperson of this board. So public comments, there are no other public here, and I don't expect we have any comments. Finance report, return to our treasurer.
The September treasurer's report reflects the $50,000 that was borrowed from the revolving line of credit last time. There's going to be a need with the expenses that you'll be discussing now to require another $75,000 this month. That is done. That should be in our bank account tomorrow. The checks are signed for all of those.
Okay.
And I know you'll be discussing all of the individual
Right.
checks on the warrant.
And tax bills are all out.
Tax bills are all out. There will be a list of dates when I'll be at the depot in person to do collections, and those will be in the post office, the library, the town offices in both Shasberry and Bennington, and they also go in the newspaper. They'll go in the newspaper next week.
Okay.
And then the 12th of November is the last day to pay taxes
All right.
in time.
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody want to review the budget status report? Who's in this guy have to go. Normally, we don't review that.
That's fine.
I think I will be taking a look at it since the numbers will be firming up Friday. By Friday, I think I'll know all the numbers except for early childhood, which I will send an email to Kate Abbott at the early childhood department to ask for our list. And also I would like to get the documentation for the residency, because that'll make next year easier with those particular parties. So that occasions looking at the budget, because we budgeted for a certain number of kids. And it seems to me we're going to have more than we budgeted for. But we did, of course, include a contingency. So next month we should review that when I have those figures firmly in hand. But skip, kind of jumping ahead here to my part of the report, the district enrollments. My estimate, this is off the top of my head, is that we have 12 going to SU schools. We have, I think, 8 at South Shore, 8 at Highland Hall, although I think there's another at South Shore coming in October, later on this month. With one at Long Trail. I had heard something about a child wanting to go to Pine Cobble, but I've never seen that fulfilled. So I guess that didn't happen. And that adds up to, I think, 29 going to other institutions. And then I don't know whether it's 106 or 107 for you.
We're going to be at 108, hopefully.
108. Okay. So that's 28 and 108, so that's 136 students. And last year, I think we had 18 plus 114, so 132. So the numbers are overall have gone up, which is good for the district. But we didn't budget for all those students, so, not directly. So we'll have to review where we are overall to see what's going to happen with that. Consent agenda. That consists of minutes from last month's meeting. And the warrants. The minutes of the emergency meeting, minutes of the September 26th, and minutes of the regular meeting, September 11th, and then the warrants, which I emailed the warrants to you. Under check registers from Jim. Yes, check registers. I have them here, so if you care to see the paper copy. And then also, this is not related to the consent agenda, it's related to the consent agenda of September 11th. Not everybody signed the warrant.
Mhm.
So Matt and I signed, I believe, so those of you who were here, you were here,
Yes.
right?
Mhm.
I was here.
Tim, if you would sign that, please. Okay, so for some reason this comes a different angle for me. So we have some incidental expenses items which related to painting that went on in the bathroom and in other rooms in the building. And so they're paint expenses, which some of which are actually the village schools expenses, but because we have a better pricing structure, I'm paying them and then deducting them from reimbursements that we owe the village school. We have payment for Joe Mintrone for the work on the staff parking lot.
That's great, thank you.
Which we had several bids for that. One that had come through the contractor that was doing the village's paving on School Street. And then Kim had talked to Joe and talked to one other paving contractor in the area. The third paving contractor had no capacity to do this right now. Joe did, and he gave us a price which was slightly lower, somewhat lower than the price from the village's paving. So we chose that, and as an option on that, we added 3 spaces to the parking lot. So there was an additional cost for that, and then to make the whole of the parking lot look like one parking lot, we opted to have a top coat on old paving from the building to the parking lot. So now it looks like a seamless parking lot, and striping was thrown in. So that's one of our bills.
I just want to thank Kim for doing all the work on that. Because it came on real quick
Yeah.
and you jumped in and I was not in the capacity to do that. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I do want to say though, looking at this, when we see Joe's final quote of 24,
Yes.
175. The other, we
Next page over.
you mean for the 795?
Yes.
Well, we should just, or I should just clarify that the quote that I sent Renee from, I don't remember the name of the other paving company,
Yep.
what looks to be less, but it included less work.
Yeah.
So that I should clarify that in an email to her.
Right, that was a little over 21,000, but
Right,
it was
but it was for
only
less
the main
work,
part of
yeah.
the parking lot.
But I'm just seeing that stated
No
here, so
extra
I should
spaces
clarify that,
and
yeah.
no apron of the building to the parking lot. Okay. And then there's a whole bunch of our assessments to the supervisory union, and then payments for students who are going to Shasberry and Molly Stark, because it was a new board. They wanted to discuss it with the board before they started in with accepting payments from us. And that was run by the board, and now Chris Murphy for that board has signed most of the contracts. There were some that were not spoken of at the time of that meeting, so he left them unsigned until they approved them at his board, but I've signed it for us. And that's the warrants, I think.
Did you not have a separate payroll warrant?
I did not.
There
But-
is one, but it doesn't look like that, and
No.
I haven't seen it
The
in that
payroll warrants
form.
are separate from these warrants now in their system,
Okay,
and they're handled through the personnel department here.
so you guys don't have to approve them at this
Seems
meeting?
like we should have to,
Yeah.
This
you
is
would think.
payroll to you?
to us.
To you guys,
And
and,
you guys.
yeah, and then they put 2 quarters together for mine,
Right.
because they missed September. Or I never thought to ask, I don't
Right.
know. This new system I'm not used to yet,
No one
so I
is.
don't.
This is
yeah.
the new statewide
Yes,
system we had to adopt.
right.
I don't-
So
there's
I don't
nothing
know
for them
why
to
that's
sign.
not
I
on
don't know.
a warrant to us. It should be
There's one,
approved.
like yours, I saw yours on the top of the one.
Yes,
Yeah,
this
but
is-
I'm not payroll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
She's
this
an
is the
accounts
one,
payable.
this is the
Okay.
one that I got
In this case.
in my packet when
Yeah.
I signed everything, so I don't know if everybody wants a copy of this to
Well, I
sign?
think we should approve it,
Yeah,
yes.
you just don't need to sign it like that.
I can
No.
make copies.
I guess not.
Me too.
If they, I don't even know if they need the copies, I think just maybe mentioning it.
I'd make a motion to.
Well, what's the amount for
Why don't we
the
make
various
copies?
items? Just
Yeah.
list. them, please.
10,104.35.
And that's 5,000 for the 5 board members.
Well, it's a quarter of that. Well, unlike,
No.
oh, you
No, we
mean
get
5,000
paid
in total?
One sum, one lump sum at one point a year, which is now.
Okay, I thought you were referring to that should be 5,000 a
It's
person.
5 people times $800.
Yeah, that probably is about
4,000.
right. Then there's the taxes. This lists the taxes remitted separately from that,
5 times.
because the check is the net.
Right, okay. So we know what that is, and I think we should add that to our consent agenda. So we're adding to our consent agenda that is listed on our warning. We're adding the payroll warrants to the treasurer and to board members for stipends for fiscal year 1920, really is what it is, crosses over. So we'll have a motion, perhaps?
Yes.
To approve
So
the
moved.
consent agenda?
Second?
Yeah, thanks. Any further discussion?
No, unless you think we'd just be crossing our Ts if we did all sign it. Would that help at all, or no? Doesn't
Sign
matter?
what?
Just sign a copy of it, or does it?
I don't know where
It's
it
just-
even
okay,
goes.
all right.
Well, we could do that. They've left us no way of putting our consent on it. So I
It's
think
not
we-
going back anywhere, I'm
Right,
not asked to
exactly.
take a copy back to
Okay.
anyone.
Okay.
So,
I think it's, I'm not sure exactly why they're doing it that way, because it does seem to me, it's always been that we approved this.
Yeah.
We approved it in the budget, and then the voting public approves that, because they would have to approve some sort of salary for the board, stipend for the board. And they approve the treasurer's amount.
Mhm.
So these things are approved in the budget, and they pay them out as approved. But it still seems it should be in our warrant, so that we bring it up at the board meeting and we authorize it directly. So that we're doing, and
yes.
it'll be in the minutes. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, have you guys signed? Oh, I'm the last one to sign. Okay. And what's the next agenda on the list here? Is that just chair's
Actually,
report?
Consent agenda, policies, none, and then super.
No policies? Okay.
That's what it says, none.
Okay.
Superintendent's report,
No superintendent.
and
Because
then
he's
it's
not
the
here.
chair's report, district enrollments, facility work.
Well, we did the enrollments and facility work, okay.
And then it says other, C, I don't know if you have other.
Okay, so, yeah, thank you. I remember it now, so. Facility work. Well, we talked about the
Mhm.
facility work because that was the primary item, is the paving and the grounds for doing it. You know, which, other. I think the only other I have is that, I think in November, if I recall properly, the Arlington, the Battenkill Valley Supervisory Union Group is supposed to actually officially become part of this SU. I may be wrong about the date, but it's coming up very soon. They kind of have to join because we have to construct a consolidated budget for the supervisory union for all of those districts. So at that point, because Sandgate will be part of the supervisory union, and Sandgate has a very similar structure to this district, except that they are pre-K-12 tuitioning, and we're only pre-K-6. But we will have common interests because neither one of us need the rather large expenses that we have to pay in our assessments to the supervisory union, for many of which, for services we don't, we have a little bit of technology and a little bit of personnel. We just mentioned it tonight. We're the personnel, Mary, and other things. So we have some interest in talking with Sandgate and talking to the SU. I think I worked out a deal that we would talk directly to Jim about this. But once they're on board, I think we have to get that done because we're going to have to figure out a deal with the union districts plus Arlington that are operating districts about the kind of share of expenses that we will be paying. And I would welcome someone else helping me out with that. But,
Sure.
I'm
It's
just,
gonna
it's
require some
unclear,
time.
it's unclear. Once it all merges, that they're gonna be under, BVSU will no longer exist.
Yes.
Rumors
As of July 1st of next year, they
Right.
will not exist.
rumors I've heard, mostly through Karen, is that both SUs are asking for a year extension on that merger. They're having a really hard time working out the pay schedules for the teachers.
Because we got
Because
two different contracts.
we have two different contracts, and the Arlington, the BVSU teacher and special educator contracts are on a faster rising pay scale than SVSU.
Yeah.
And so there's real problems with trying to merge these because legally you can't give some people pay cuts, but now you have people working for on different pay schedules in the same
Mhm.
contract. So there's some real issues, and they've apparently, what Karen has heard through her union is that they've asked for a year to work this out.
Okay. And this SU is under negotiation right now with its teachers and support personnel because the last contract was a one-year extension. And so basically, this one will be a one-year extension too, because of all the
Healthcare.
unknowns, healthcare being one of the biggest. And they can't really do healthcare until this statewide board that's been constructed settles on the healthcare plan, because that's going to be a statewide plan. So, I don't know. I still think we ought to be talking about this, because I'm told that Arlington and Sandgate representatives will come in November, or if that's the start. I may be confused.
Come
with
where?
the actual date.
You mean
They will
come
be
and
part
meet?
of the SU. They will join
Oh.
the SU as members of the board. Maybe not voting members yet, but they'll have to be there to start talking about this. See what happens.
This could get kind of interesting, as we surmised it would.
Yeah.
SU assessments,
Yes.
you know, I mean, Arlington's gonna have to swallow a pretty bitter pill.
Yes.
They know it too.
Oh, they know it. They're
Well,
not happy about it.
I'm sure they're not too happy about it. And then I argued that we should postpone this evaluation of superintendent until Arlington was there. But of course, then Arlington has no experience with him. But still, they are going to have to be integrated into this process, and they're going to have their say. And this evaluation leads to a salary process as well. So I have to participate in that process, and I'm missing the meeting right now. But it's complicated, and when it becomes clearer to me, I think I will reach out to Sandy and see if we can sit down and have a discussion.
They will still.
Bye, Mary.
They will still name the elementary district of Sandgate still maintains their.
Sandgate is
Their choice.
still non-operating, pre-K
Entire.
through 12.
They're
Okay.
K-12.
Yep. And they'll remain that way. And they had a deal with BVSU about their operating costs and what kind of assessments they did. So we will need to work out the same thing again. But I don't, it's a big unknown because it's a new structure and the board could act in different ways, although I think Jim sounded like I think we're willing to talk about it so we can set something up in order to kind of dispose of the problem that Sandgate and North Bennington had posed for the structure. So we should work on that. Okay, well, I don't really have anything else to talk about. I mean, there are other facilities issues, there are always facility issues, it's an old building. And there's always maintenance to do that's our maintenance because it's building structure or grounds, as in the case of the parking lot.
I know that Tim made the point that there's gonna be pressure on the paint stuff on the exterior of the building.
Yeah, we were warned last year, we're gonna fail. I mean, the inspection was done, we're gonna fail. So it's a matter of, we have to make a plan, I think, is the next piece. I don't think it needs to be done immediately, but I think you have to have a plan in place of when you're gonna take care of it. So the eaves need to be taken care of. It's not, so we have to, I think, within a certain time frame. I'll find out more details as I come and let you know, but I think the idea is that he gives his report in, we tell them, people that we've done it, but then they're gonna say, well, what's your plan of remediation, because you've failed, you have peeling paint and da-da-da-da-da.
Would that result in positive soil testing or?
No, it's just a
feeling, that's all
visual,
it takes,
it's
huh?
just a visual inspection of the building, so they go through.
Somewhat related, or just?
It is basic, I mean,
Okay.
an old building like this
Yeah.
that has peeling paint, they don't even, it is automatically, like, you have lead paint unless you can prove to them that you've done a full remediation at some point in time.
Or encapsulation?
Yeah,
whatever
some
it's called.
sort of process has been
Well,
done.
I guess we need to know what process is considered appropriate, and then we know to put
I
it out
think
to bid.
Aaron Rogers was the one who did, I think, in the initial conversation with him, he was just saying that, it's gonna have to be, sanded down and repainted, whether, he wasn't sure yet if it needed to be encapsulated while that was happening and stuff, he didn't think so, but his absolutely just rough estimate was in the teens of thousands to have a lift and go all the way around the building to do
Sounds about right.
that.
Well, I think we need to just, again, get more information as to what is accepted by the state
Mhm.
as appropriate remediation, and then we put it out to bid, but it's gonna be spring.
Yep.
Spring, summer.
Oh, yeah.
Probably summer.
But I think the thing that they want is
Is a plan.
that they want you to have a plan in place. The other thing that, just to put on your radar, is if around the state is any indication of the water results, we're probably gonna have a failure or two, because we're an old building, and there are some taps that don't get used very often. So even the ones that are in the janitor closets count, just so that you guys understand. So that they may need to have replacement, and the figure I've seen is only like 300 or 375 per fixture or something like that. So odds are money will have to be put into that. So hey, well, maybe we can get lucky and we don't have an issue, but the numbers don't look good from what almost every school that they've tested has come back as a fail in at least one or more taps so far.
And when is that being done here?
I did the tap count, so I submitted all that stuff, and then they'll basically just send us the whole kit, and we have a certain amount of time to take all the tests and send it back. But they don't tell us when we're gonna get it. Because I don't know that they have an idea of how long it's gonna take them to process everything, so they're just slowly doing it.
And there's a protocol on how you take the sample.
So there's two samples. There's an initial run, so an initial flip on in the morning, and then you let it run for, I think, 10 or 15 minutes, and then you take another sample. So you get two samples from every tap in the building. That includes water fountains as well as things.
And like you said, even the service spigots in the
Every-
janitor's
yeah.
room.
Yep.
And these all get sent off for testing.
Yeah,
And the state picked a lab or labs.
yeah. It'll all be pre-packed, like it'll be like.
Right.
Addressed
Send it
envelope,
back.
or you just pack it back up and send it back in,
Right.
is my understanding.
Okay. Well, yeah, I would think the janitor closets might have trouble passing.
It really just depends. I mean, you're just talking about a tiny little spring on pipe,
Yeah.
presumably it's copper. I know that the water at North Bennington is, acidity and all that is set appropriately to quickly encase
In case the interior of the
the
pipe.
interior of the pipe.
No, we may, I mean, I'm just saying that the odds of what I've seen so far from the results.
All right. Well, we do have a good partner. The water department does do a pretty good job with the chemistry.
Mhm.
Yes, and, you know, I think as we all know, the issue isn't lead in the water, it's lead in some of the fixtures.
Yes.
That are older.
Well, is it lead pipe or is just lead solder?
Not even lead solder, well, maybe within the fixture, like in a bathroom sink or older water fountains, there might have been some lead solder
Right.
and some lead used in the fountain head of the thing. Again, if with appropriate water chemistry, that's usually.
Well,
But also
there's
the
lead in
threshold
the
is
brass.
way
There's lead in brass, so,
in the lower quality.
yeah.
Yeah, and older.
Well, there just is lead in brass. It may be minimized by the alloy you use. But, yeah.
Well, we'll see what.
Yeah, so
Just
just,
what it is.
just something to be aware of. We did submit the safety and security grant. We haven't got a result on that, but we'll let you know as soon as we hear about that.
They haven't told you they're not going to allow you.
Not yet.
Well, this one was specifically for independent schools, so
Yes.
we'll see.
But they didn't put it out, they put it out there on a one-day schedule so that.
Oh, no,
one could apply.
they ended up having to extend it because they, the communication about it was in the middle of the summer and was very, very poorly done.
Yes.
So no one knew that it was happening.
And then if you could just kindly keep, like, the facilities committee or whomever, when you're receiving more information about
Mhm.
the paint,
Yep,
the recommendations.
yep, absolutely.
Because there's gonna be, not every contractor's gonna wanna deal with that if the requirements are particularly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're gonna, I mean, so as soon as I get the information, once we've submitted our thing, then they'll probably say, well, then you have to make a plan, and then then I'll know the details of what we need to start doing. So we're at the very start of that process at this point.
Just, it occurs to me that if the visual inspection is what triggers the judgment, then it seems that one might just wanna go and get it painted, so that the visual inspection does not, I mean,
I'm following your logic, yeah, right.
instead of, testing every corner, you know, and then,
No, I mean, I think that the idea is that if it's sealed up, that it's, so the idea is that if it's not chipping, you know, there's probably
Not
new,
falling
like,
onto the
then that means layers of paint have been put on there since the lead, so
Yes.
it is
Right.
encapsulated. So I think
Yeah.
that's the idea, so that if it's chipping, it
Well,
may
if
be
it-
chipping enough
Right.
that it's releasing some of the earlier
Yep.
layers. So that's, I mean, that's my take on it, I don't know for sure. But
This, back to the lead issue at pipes. This says lead's commonly added to brass at around 2% for improved machinability, which, you know, faucets require machines. There's going to be some there.
Well, it's up to
If
you.
if you don't have acid, you don't leach it out. We do have tempered water that's slightly basically.
You know, when I do any plumbing work in my house, I cut into a pipe, it's gotta be a full some carpet.
Okay. On the
you know,
inside?
A coat on the inside.
Mhm.
And that's not true in other places I've lived, where they'll be clean,
Yes.
and then you know and you can taste the copper, or whatever it is.
We don't have lead pipe in the water system itself. Bennington does have some of that. We don't. Yep, so we'll see.
Yep.
We have to do the testing, find out.
Yep.
And then, what, do they figure that's basically a fixture change, or is there a pipe change in certain
It's,
cases?
it's an uncover.
It's
The problem,
uncovered.
it's, no, I mean,
It's
it's, you have to
uncovered.
then, you have to then decide, you have to
Right.
then solve what the issue is.
Yes.
You start with the fixture, if that doesn't solve the problem, then you gotta go deeper,
Yeah.
is I think, the way there.
So it's like the mechanic does, you put a part in, see if it works.
Exactly.
So that means more testing.
Yep,
And are they paying for the secondary testing?
I don't know that for sure.
They are paying for this testing,
Yes, that's my understanding.
and they'll pay something toward the fixture. Beyond
A
that.
set,
you're
a set
on-
amount, but it's, if it goes, if it goes deeper, then it's the organization, school, whatever, to solve.
And if you go into piping, then you've got real issues, because you're gonna be ripping walls as well. All right, well, we await further news. Is there anything else under other that you'd like, anybody like to talk about? About school business, that is.
I guess the one other thing I would just put out there is just something for you guys to consider. There was a student we lost here a while back. They had housing issues and things like that. The student was then put into, was committed, basically, and then they want to come back into the district. That student really could not be served by it, so I just want you to be aware that it just may be something for you guys to consider again. I know that it's a cost, but the on-point program is at least a simple solution that would be guaranteed, where we could just say, this is not gonna be working here, and we could send them there. 'Cause if
Well,
we
isn't
do.
that
if
really
we do-
up to the committee that's dealing with a particular
Oh,
child?
this child,
Student?
I mean, I know that this child they're in the system. They may end up coming back here, and I'm just giving you, so.
But I mean.
So the students like that could pop up anywhere, and if we aren't in that process, then I don't know what you would probably end up having to send them someplace else, or send them there at a much greater
Yeah,
cost,
I-
I guess.
Yeah, we've
That's what would happen. What I'm saying is that the SPED and placement committee would determine where that child, if it's appropriate to send that child. It would be our cost.
It's not
through
up to
our-
us.
We don't.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, doesn't it, you were saying, at one point you described the on-point program as sort of an insurance policy. That if
Well,
we
that's
had a
the way they
student,
describe it.
if we
yes.
had a student that needed that kind of care,
Yeah.
then they would
Well,
go there.
I
If
can't
not,
describe it that way for us because we were excluded from it.
yep,
But by previous business manager, I don't know what we're not paying directly for on-point
Mhm.
now, but we, of course, if the committee that reviewed sorry, what am I talking about?
Not the 504.
The plan of the student
mhm,
found that that was the appropriate place and the cheapest place because it's local and
Mhm.
available. I cannot see that they can refuse that. We would pay for it then.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be your cost, it would be.
Oh, I know, I know it's not, I just, I just know that this kid is out there and.
Well, there's always that possibility, and
Mhm.
we've at times dealt with children that
Mhm.
needed a super expensive placement, or
Yeah.
the potential for it, a
Yeah.
tune of, 6 figures.
Yeah,
Yes.
And that can throw a budget, quickly awry, but you also can't really budget for it, because then you're over budgeting, so, yes, anytime we know that's a potential, and the potential reaches a high enough probability, then we're able to consider that in a budgeting process,
Mhm.
but I don't think
Well,
district.
Actually, our special ed budget is basically set by the special ed department of the SU. We have nothing to do with it, really.
so I understand that they can do that at the middle school and high school level. I don't understand how they can do that at the elementary level when they don't know what it's gonna be.
But they are supposed to participate in all the, especially the IEP
Oh,
meetings.
I understand that, but they can't, like, if you're the first group to see a student in kindergarten or something like
Right.
that, then
Right.
you're the ones who make the identification and go forward. So I just don't see how they can know, I mean, maybe they just do predictive models or something like that. But yes, once they're in third or fourth grade and we've already identified them, then we can predict about what the cost might be. But when
Right.
we are the first
Not so sure.
organization, the first school to identify them, we have no idea what the, what the
Yes,
cost
but
might be.
they are the people who are going to make that decision about what it's gonna cost and where it's going to go. But of course, there's the IEP process, the parents participate in that.
Mhm.
You've got that whole process to work through,
Mhm.
and recommendations are made about what services are necessary, and a recommendation is made ultimately about where the child should be placed.
Mhm. Oh, no,
Yeah.
I understand that.
I
piece.
guess I don't understand what you're asking for.
I'm just I just don't want, what could be a risk is that they say, you're not in on point, that child has to come here. And that child would not be safe here. Is what, and.
No,
we-
I don't think they could do that.
Well, if see, this is where it gets a little, a family can insist that they come here,
Well,
and
yeah.
if we're the initial people, or if the problem is just starting,
Yeah.
they could say, you have to stay there until we figure this all out.
Right.
And I am
That's the problem. That's happened
handcuffed.
before.
I am handcuffed
Yeah.
in that I can't say, well, this is not a safe environment for them. And I can't say, well, this would be a better environment until we've gone through, and it can take,
All the hurdles.
Yeah.
months and
All
months and
the
months
hurdles,
for that
right.
to happen. And for us, the risk is a lot more, it's a lot different now
The
than
risk
it
of the
was when
child
this
being
was.
in the
Well,
population.
it's also a risk for this school,
Yes,
because when this was a public school, the other families didn't have the choice to say, oh, well, this is not a safe place for my child.
right.
The families could opt out.
Yeah.
And you're then, 5 families opt out because one student in that group has
Right.
hit their
So there's an
child,
impact.
so there's an impact to the school, the district still has to pay no matter,
Yeah.
but there's gonna be an impact to the functionality
Got it.
of us as an organization. So I'm just trying to think, and I'm just trying to think of what are the ways in which we can potentially have thought about that before it hits the crucial point where we're already facing, and then it's almost too late to do it when we're in that crisis mode.
Well, again, as Ray pointed out, though, our hands are tied, so are yours,
Mhm.
when it comes to that, unless you can convince people over at the SU
Mhm.
of the severity of the situation and the parents.
But see, the SU the SU has a little more flexibility, is that I can only get funding through tuition and special ed. And they have, funds and things like that, so that they can put people in place to support that child for 6 months or a year while all this stuff is happening, I don't have the depth to be able to do that unless we wrap that, again, it's a contingency we're talking about, into tuition.
But then you're talking about something that is known, and that, you know, they've got an idea that it doesn't work here at that point, right?
Mhm.
And, you know, though we have approval in all categories, we're not going to be able to deal with all children. We know that, and they know that.
Mhm.
But the district has to pay for the child, you know, if they're a resident, and that's going to be,
Well,
I don't know how the specifics will work out. You know, I understand your point of view,
Mhm.
and I understand the risks. They were there when we were a public school, but we didn't have.
But you never had the potential for the
I
families to leave.
understand that, Tim.
Yeah.
But you know, people, we have relied on the fact that we don't have many children like that. We
Mhm.
haven't had. But
No.
there is a risk, and
Mhm.
I understand that. I don't know, because of the way we set this up, we need this institution to deal with special ed population, which
Mhm.
normally we have a fairly modest number.
Mhm.
And mostly,
So-
Modest needs.
So if I-
they're less needs.
Just out of curiosity, if before they went through the whole process, like, let's say it's a really, I'm concerned about the welfare of other kids.
Yeah.
Because this is out of my, would I be able to, or would this go against our charter, would I be able to put in place a tutor for 2 hours or something like that, which is, I think, the minimum you have to
Yeah.
have, or something like that for a child, where, because I can't, like, because the process, especially if it's ED, emotional, social,
Service, yeah.
that one's it's sort of the hardest hurdle to get, hardest of the hurdles to
Right.
get through, but it's also potentially the most dangerous.
Right.
So if that's the hurdle, is there a stopgap that I would be supported in of, you know, providing a tutor or something like that? Or, because I'm saying this child can't, like, they can't be in the school.
But you're saying the tutor would not be supported by the SU?
Like, we would
Through-
pay, I mean,
with money.
it would be safer for me and for the school to pay a tutor, whatever, you know, for those
Right.
2 hours and have that child not in school. But would I be breaking the charter we have with the community at large, is what it's just a hurdle that I don't quite understand. It's not something I've had to cross,
Yeah.
but it came up in
We have had.
so how would
We've
that
had
work?
some situations like that.
Yeah, so I'm just curious how that
And,
might work from the district's perspective.
Well, and the particular case I'm thinking about, actually, the parent moved the child,
Mm-hmm.
ultimately. Because we were willing to support certain things as a district,
Mm-hmm.
and we argued for them and fought for them indirectly through talking to
Mm-hmm.
where we could put our 2 cents in. Tom Hudak was crucial to that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the parent got unhappy with the SU's position, I guess is
Mhm.
what I would say, and moved
Yeah.
to a place where the services were more to
Their
the liking.
Yeah.
I would like not to have that happen. I would like that we actually serve the child properly, but we don't have control over that.
Mhm.
I think we gotta look, you know, maybe in more private means, you know, as it comes along.
Yeah.
Discuss particulars, but I don't think it would be going against the charter. If you're talking about the notion that we are committed to servicing all children who live in this district.
Yeah.
In those situations, it's, you know, the only question would arise if the IEP and the for what the group that comes up with the recommendation of the best placement for the child decides this would be the best placement, and I don't think that would be the case. If it was, certainly we would, I think, because it would be an alternative to paying for the outside service, would pay for what was necessary in the inside service.
Well, how would we do that? The only funds we have are those that are in our special ed budget, which can be, overwhelmed a little bit, but we would have to pay them, make them up the following year. In a new budget, we'd have to incorporate that deficit.
I think that's what you're getting at,
Yes.
is whether you'd have to assess tuition based
But
on that.
for that to happen, it has to be something that's reimbursable, and that the SU has to make a decision. They have to make sure that we're doing it in a way that meets the criteria. And that because of the act that changes the special ed funding into basically something that's unknown right now, is going to make things more problematic in the future if a child like that comes into the district, because they are going to do it not on a basis of who shows up at the door in this SU for special ed services. It's going to be an allotment that it'd be like what's the feds to the state block grant? It's a block grant based on your operating expenses over a period of 3 years or something like that.
Well, we fall underneath that number, so that at least
Yeah.
as an institution.
Right.
But, so it's a hypothetical that I'd like to talk more about.
Well, I think we should talk about it, because what you're pointing toward is the interim when the special ed director will not fund services of a certain sort for this child, but you think that they're absolutely essential to protect the rest of the school population.
Would there be any way to make an addendum to our tuition agreement or something like this?
I don't know where the money comes from, because
Yeah.
I don't see that we have legal authority. So I think we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
And maybe we should consult the SU
Yeah.
attorney.
Well, that's their specialty.
Yeah.
They better have a handle on these new rules and new regs.
Yeah.
Maybe that's,
Mhm.
maybe a meeting with
Mhm.
the Stitzel crew or that kind of stuff.
Or get our attorney into it if we need to, but first we would have a meeting. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I think one
Yeah.
other thing that Tim wanted, this Tim over here wanted to mention is whether or not you thought that busing would be any help to your school on a very limited basis.
There,
but,
there are families that is their issue. So they do not enroll because they don't have transportation. So, could it, and then are there families who, if that became available, would probably jump at that opportunity? I think there are. Now, would that then change the feeling and the culture of our school a little bit? I do think that one of the things that makes this school so close is that most every day, the teachers and the parents at least have a hello
Yeah.
or a passing glance.
Right.
They see each other. If there's a concern, they go, hey, can I talk to you later? No,
Right.
there's the more challenging piece of that too, that they want to have a conference right then and there. But I think that connection makes for a much richer environment
No
overall.
question.
So it's an interesting, but
But-
would it make a difference to
But
some families, absolutely.
You could, you know, that's not that big of an issue for those who live within 5 blocks of here or whatever,
Mhm.
right? But
Mhm.
maybe a limited bus, private little caravan that goes to Parent Acres, that goes out to the far extreme of, you know, within the district, and if there are people who are wanting to tuition in and out of the district, there might be a pickup
So-
spot in Chester.
So I would, I mean, to extend that further, I would love, you know, like, in the ideal world, what would be really well, would serve this, but then also serve another need for us, is trips. Like, we
Sorry,
sometimes,
what?
we take the kids on trips, and
Yes,
right now,
right.
a lot of times,
Field trip.
families drive.
Yeah.
And some grades, we get ample drivers, and
Right.
some
Some
grades,
grades you don't.
we don't, and it's a scramble, and
Right.
and then it is a significant amount of paperwork for the office to make sure everybody has insurance, everybody has
Right.
had a
But
background check.
conversely, that goes back to your same argument that that's part of
Oh,
the
I know,
culture.
I know, so it's an interesting,
Yes.
conundrum.
Conundrum, right.
So I don't know what that would
Right.
do to those things, but.
And it,
but
and it
are
also
there-
gets
are there
parents
things-
out on these trips.
But are
with
there
kids.
things that would change, you know, or, yeah, but if we had like one 15-person van that we had access to, that could supplement the class trips, but
Right.
that could also make
Allow
these,
for that, right.
Right.
these busing run, you know, like, right now we have kids taking a tennis class, you know, at the tennis center, and we figured out a way to arrange for, busing for that, but it was just, again, it would be really, you know, if we were more easily able to do that, it could be, you know, so maybe
Right.
it's not the full-on busing, but maybe it's
No.
just a single vehicle that we could do
That's
some
all I
of these
would be
limited
thinking,
things.
is that,
Yeah.
that if there are people who are hardship, parents leave the house even before they do, or need,
Mhm.
um,
We're not talking, I think, like a van.
That's
would-
right,
would-
that's what I'm
would-
saying.
Would amply cover
Right.
all of those needs of those families who, and it would provide a lot of flexibility for those families
Right.
who are like, we can't do it, or whatever,
Well,
you know.
it's not like you're suddenly offering to go pick people up on
No.
Prospect Street or whatever. It's-
No, it would be an, you know,
Unless there
we
was a
would,
particular
a
hardship.
it'd
need
be
or
at the-
things, you know.
on
it
the
would
outer
be things like
margins
that.
of the
Yeah.
district, right. And I guess, you know, we've never had a transportation budget. I mean, we've had a little bit of transportation money
Mhm.
from the state, but we've never had provided busing. And it was for the community aspects of this.
Mhm.
But we could, you know, if we came up with a reasonable budget, maybe we could figure something out,
But, I mean, and I'll
add
extend.
that in.
I'll extend it even further, like, you know, Lori and I have talked about, you know, a forest kindergarten. If we could, like, the little guys, for them even to walk over to Lake Perrin,
Yeah.
it takes a
That's-
long time.
That's their field trip.
But if you could quickly, you know, take a van over there, and even if it had to come back and make 2 trips,
Right.
and those kids had to wait 5 minutes for the rest of the group,
Right.
Yes.
the experience, how much more time they'd get to be out there,
Yes.
or even to go to Mile Around Woods,
Right.
just to
Right.
get up the road. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Right.
seems really silly,
No, it's completely.
but
No,
how
it's
much
not
more,
silly.
how much more time they'd
Right.
get to be
Right.
out
Right.
there.
Yes.
There's a lot of, there's some interesting selling points to something
Yeah.
like that.
Oh, God.
Well, I mean, obviously, it would be your operation, you would operate.
It would be their operation,
But we
could supplement.
We could
it.
incorporate a cost for transportation.
Not for the program stuff maybe, but for
But
for the
for-
getting a
for the-
kid that's
yeah.
way out on the edge or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
I don't, the program stuff it's sort of part of what we pay in tuition to now, I would assume.
No, that's fine, I just,
Right.
I mean, this is something that had
But
never
we could-
crossed my
we
mind,
could-
that could run into your transportation,
Right.
but, because it's something that I've just played with, how could I? get
And I
around?
wouldn't even want to venture into this, but, you know, the busing system that picks up people for the SU, go to Lake Perrin, and then they come right down and stop at the library.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You know, if there was, not that we necessarily want young kids
Yeah.
on those buses, but.
Well, we could talk about that.
You know, whether or not there was a payment, some way to, you know, if they're waiting out at the curb for their older brother to go to the high school or something, or,
Yeah.
why can't this other child get on it?
I believe that the bus system will pick up children spaced at home, or, you know, actually for Sacred Heart. I think.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure about that, but I believe we picked up children that were on a route and dropped them off at some common point. That would be worth some exploration.
May I make a motion to adjourn?
I would love to second it.